Hi, and welcome to the Law Simplified. I'm Shaveen Bandadnaika. You're a student that has just completed your first degree, your LLB, or if you're coming from a different background, your GDL, your graduate diploma in law. Will law firms now hire you? If you like the type of content that I make on this YouTube channel, as well as the different platforms the Law Simplified is disseminated on, do give a thumbs up and share this video, as well as subscribe to the Law Simplified channel. Now this question, am I going to be hired by a law firm, is something that I get asked quite often by students who have just begun their final year of law school, those who might have just sat for their final examinations, and in some instances, for those who are proactive among you before even starting a law degree in the first place. Now, whilst this question seems to be quite straightforward and direct, in reality, it's much more nuanced and it depends on a number of different factors. This video is intended to take some of the most common questions that I get asked in relation to this subject and then try and dispel a few notions, a few discrepancies that exist between those that universities and institutions tend to suggest to students, as well as career guidance counselors as a whole. So we'll go through each individual question that I have received over the years, and I'll try to dispel as much as I can. The first, and I would argue broadest question that I often get asked is, what do law firms look for? This might seem quite ambiguous and subjective, but in reality, the aspect of what a law firm is looking for in a potential candidate, an apprentice, or a legal professional actually depends a lot on the jurisdiction that you intend to practice in, as well as what area of expertise you're bringing into the table. More often than not, because of the diversity of jurisdictions, as well as the fact that law firms are quite wide apart now and there's quite a number of them across the board, in order to differentiate oneself, most firms tend to try and specialize and carve out a unique niche for themselves. So from the standpoint of a law firm, one that is specialized, they would also try to enrich and supplement their position in the market, so to speak, with candidates or potential legal professionals who have expertise in that niche specialized area. So depending on the jurisdiction that you're practicing in, try to carve out a very specific set of expertise and skills for yourself, and while doing so, make sure that you understand that it's something that you're personally interested in and that there is a successful firm, a successful entity that's already there that's specializing in it, so that you're targeting yourself for that particular firm. So in relation to what firms are looking for, the quick recap would be, think about the jurisdiction that you're planning to practice in, look for the firms that are specializing in the area that you are most interested in, see if you have carved your degree or your GDL out in a manner that is enticing to them. Have you taken the subjects or the professional qualifications necessary in order to be appealing to them as a candidate, as a legal professional? The next question that I often get asked is, should I proceed on to do an LLM or a postgraduate qualification? Now, I have to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that I am generalizing this based on the information that I have and the experience that I've gathered over the past 7 years of lecturing and guiding students, not just in their academics, but also their career. But why I am saying what I'm about to say is particularly because of what I've heard from employers as well. So individually, it might be quite different for you based on where you're practicing and your personal circumstances. So do take this with a pinch of or a grain of salt, let's say. Whether or not you should do an LLM or a postgraduate qualification, in my personal opinion, is a choice that you need to make thinking about what exactly you want to achieve in the career that you're getting yourself into. Generally speaking, there is a tendency among students to fall into this comfort zone of academics. It's something that they are comfortable more or less because they know that there's a structured pathway that is provided to them by their academic administration, by their faculty, and by their university at large. There is a certain set of guidelines to follow, and you know there's an assignment submission at X point, you know there's an examination, so it's very predictable as such. So there is this tendency of students having something similar to Stockholm syndrome, if you're familiar with it, where they get into a degree and they hate it at first, they start loving it, and then ultimately they don't feel like letting go of that comfort of academics. And they move on to doing an LLM and sometimes even a PhD, and more so than that, without really jumping into the practice. Ask any solicitor, a barrister, or a lawyer in any jurisdiction, and they'll tell you that academics apart, putting pen to paper apart, the actual practice is a different animal altogether. So you have a lot of people who go on to be heavily qualified in terms of their paper titles, but might not perform as well professionally because they don't really have the experience or the know-how on the ground. So if you are thinking of doing an LLM or a postgraduate qualification, keep that in mind. Is this the route that you want to take? It is far better, I might add, to try and supplement your degree or the GDL that you currently have with some professional qualifications. Go into doing your solicitors, for example, through a process like the SQE, the Solicitors Qualifying Examination, which is established in England and Wales. Try and supplement your current legal knowledge with other ancillary aspects, like perhaps a qualification or a professional qualification at that in arbitration or mediation. Something that will entice or rather be appealing to a law firm when looking at your resume, so that you do have experience, at least expertise in a certain area professionally, as opposed to just only academically. Another question I get often asked is, I haven't achieved the grade classification that I was looking for. How is this going to impact my job prospects, my career? The short answer to this is, it's going to impact your career. And that's the blunt truth about it. But as you might have already known, being a law student, nothing is as binary as it seems. It's never black or white. It's always many shades of gray. So your grade classification is only material in terms of getting yourself through the door. It's quite a competitive market, and for law firms especially, in order to mitigate the time taken to recruit good talent, they look at your paper title and the paper qualification rather as the paramount objective when they recruit and when they absorb people into their firms. So when they do see, let's say, a second low or a bare pass or a third class for that matter, and then there are other potential legal professionals or potential candidates who have achieved a second upper or better yet a first class, they are going to get the priority of a second viewing, a second look, so to speak. So having said that, the grade classification is important, but that alone is insufficient. There are a number of candidates that I have personally advised over the past several years who have gone on to achieving a second lower and still gone above and beyond that of a candidate who had a first class law degree purely because of this one particular aspect that they had in their resume, something which is ancillary and supplementary to their law degree. This goes back to that first point that I mentioned about making yourself more appealing to a firm by having core strengths that are parallel or that meet the expectations of the specialization that firm is in. So try and articulate the pathway that you need, not just from a general law degree, regardless of the grade classification it has. Try and have certain other professional qualifications that send you above and beyond a person that may have achieved a first class but only has a law degree, as opposed to any other professional qualifications, or for that matter, an academic qualification in a different subject area that might be supplementary and appealing to a law firm. So, to recap, in relation to your grade classification, it's important to have a good grade. You need to pass out well, not just for your employers or potential employers to see a resume that's appealing to them, but also for yourself to feel confident that you know the subject matter. But that alone is not the end of the story. Try and supplement that, even if you have a low grade classification, with other expertise and professional qualifications that will make it more appealing, as opposed to someone who just has a legal academic qualification at a first class level without any other experience. If there are any more questions of the same caliber, which I'm sure I'm going to receive over the next several years as well, drop them in the comments below, or you can reach out through the links in the description. I highly recommend having a look at the playlist called Career Guidance on this very YouTube channel, which over the years I've addressed some of the concerns that students have when going into the legal profession itself. But that being said, until the next time that we meet, have fun, stay safe, and as always, obey the law.